Okay, talking about Seiko crystals for the 6139 6000X watches. We got us here proof marked, unrestored, completely original. That's a true Pogue, mine. And this is a later 6139 6005 unrestored. Talking about these crystals because these, especially these blue models, are really popular. And people have been talking about the crystals that come in these watches. We, of course, have reproduced crystals in chemically, tempered glass for these 6139 6000 X's. We got those from Jonathan Koch, who was the first person to ever have them recreated, and we continue to do his work. But I've introduced a few crystals, and I've finally gotten around to having a special crystal made. So let's talk about crystals first off. Okay, Seiko had, generally speaking, two crystal types that went into these watches. They had what I call the Type 1 flat, which is Hardlex crystal. And the big thing about it is it's a little lower in height, but the top surface is not domed. The internal surface is a little domed, but the top is generally flat. Then Seiko went with the Type 2, which is domed. It's a little bit higher, and the upper and lower surfaces are domed slightly, so you get a little bit of a magnification effect. Gives it a little more depth. The Type 1 flat, which is, I have one in this watch, just sort of makes the dial and the indicator ring and everything just look a little bigger because it's so clean and wide. The Type 1 flat was actually not the first crystal for these. The first crystal for these, which Seiko only used for a couple of months at the very beginning, was one of these babies. And you're like, okay, it's crystal. The first gen crystals for these watches was a V-type, or as they're called now, the chrome ring. It's not chrome, it's stainless steel, but that's what they did. This was the very first kind, is they used this bonded crystal into a metal ring, and the very first ones had this. These are really rare. Seiko didn't really make these very often. One of the things that's cool about them is that they're just a flat crystal bonded into this ring, and so it's really distortion free. When Seiko decided to get away from making the manufacturing input they have to do for one of these. I mean, they have to have the ring made, and they have to have the glass made, and they have to bond it together, and you have a whole area of additional potential, moisture intrusion if any of this bonding fails, whatever. They went to a one-piece crystal almost immediately, like that. So it's the same externally, and it snaps right in place. They exchange, but this one was just a one-piece manufacture. The biggest difference being is that it had a flat top. Is this the flat top one? Did I grab the right one? The most important reason for this is people are really crazy about these blue ones, especially earlier ones. Cevert, or whatever the gentleman's name is, the French race car driver, because he wore one of these. And so people have been looking for these chrome ring ones. They're impossible to find. But the correct early crystal would be the Type 1 flat. And I went ahead and had the things made, if you can believe it or not. So it's a little lower in height. It's flat edged on the top. It reduces distortion around the edge, and it drops right in, and it gives you that early vintage look, which, as far as I know, no one else is currently producing. I'm pretty excited about it. I had to work with the factory to get these the way that I wanted them to be. It took some back and forth to make that happen, but I'm really proud of how they look. I've been waiting for this for a long time. So if you look on our website, and I'll put a link down below, the new Type 1 flat Cevert crystal is available only from Klein Vintage Watch. Yeah, you can see the difference, I think, most clearly in maybe this one, I'm not sure. You can see that this crystal is the edge of the crystal is lower, therefore it has, the top surface has a greater diameter, which means there's less distortion around the edge of the indicator ring. You can see it's a little more split up on the Type 2. So there's your Type 1 flat, and there's your Type 2 domed. I'm excited. Go check it out. All right. Thank you so very much.